Welcome back to another episode of Letting the Dust Settle. Today we're going to be talking about the Jimmy Kimmel situation. Before I start, leave a like and subscribe and let me know your thoughts on this series to see if you guys like it, if I should continue this. I've been enjoying posting this content. But let's just hop into this. For those who have not been paying attention to the news, Jimmy Kimmel was recently fired from his Tonight Show about talking and what the news has been telling us, making fun of the Charlie Kirk assassination. So before we hop into the episode, let's go and react to what exactly he said so we can get a little bit of context of what the whole entire scenario is about.
The largest city in our bitterly divided nation, where, like the rest of the country, we're still trying to wrap our heads around the senseless murder of the popular podcaster and conservative activist Charlie Kirk yesterday, whose death has amplified our anger, our differences. And I've seen a lot of extraordinarily vile responses to this from both sides of the political spectrum. Some people are cheering this, which is something I won't ever understand. We had another school shooting yesterday in Colorado, the 100th one of the year. And with all these terrible things happening, you would think that our president will at least make an attempt to bring us together, but he didn't. President Obama did. President Biden did.
This is all he said. People are going after him and crying, and even Donald Trump is freaking out because this is what he said about the Charlie Kirk assassination. Do we even need to do this episode? As you can see, the justification for him being fired from his Tonight Show was absolute nonsense. And I didn't think I was going to, with this series, be someone who is going to be advocating and defending the left. But here I am. For as much crap as I talked about the left all last year on Twitter, here I am defending one of the champions of the left, Jimmy Kimmel, on why his entire firing and then now rehiring was just a whole lot of hoopla and backlash, and even deeper and darker than we really would have thought. I'll let you guys know more about what he actually said during his night show. So Jimmy Kimmel, obviously from what we watched, he addressed the Charlie Kirk assassination. He said it's horrific. He said that no one should be cheering about it. And even from people on the left and the right, he found it pretty disgusting that people would cheer for someone's literal assassination. And then he went on to roast Donald Trump and the Republican Party for about the next 10 minutes. That was it. He left the Charlie Kirk assassination where it was. He said it was horrible. He said it was disgusting that people were making fun of it. And then he went on to roast Donald Trump for the next 10 minutes. And I mean, he's a leftist. He's a guy who has a nightly show. You know, he's been on Donald Trump's back the entire 9 years. Donald Trump's been in the political sphere. And I've always, not been the biggest fan of Jimmy Kimmel, even though I find some of his stuff about Donald Trump, especially in this clip, pretty funny. He never really truly went after Joe Biden, especially, with Joe Biden's health declining during his entire presidency. He never truly took the steps to really call out both sides equally, in my opinion. But either way, that's his opinion. That's who he is. He works for ABC. ABC is owned by Disney. That's obviously going to push a lot more leftist propaganda. And so Jimmy's just doing what he's paid to do, right? He's paid to be a champion of the left, stand for the left, and attack Donald Trump, right? And now, first, let's go into the ego aspect of this. Donald Trump is the president of the United States, right? He is one of the most powerful men in the world. He's at the front table, at the front seat to every single big talk that's happening with the Ukraine. He's making decisions on what's happening in Venezuela. He's at the table being, the little bellboy for Benjamin Netanyahu about the Israel-Gaza situation. And so Donald Trump obviously has so much authority and so much power. And he doesn't need to even react or even care about Jimmy Kimmel. But Donald Trump's ego is so small, he not only had to comment about it, say that he has no talent, no ratings, but he had to go even deeper and get Jimmy Kimmel fired. Now, some of you are saying, how is that possible? Are you sure? Like, are you just making stuff up? Are you a conspiracy theorist? Well, so after Jimmy Kimmel talked poorly and made fun of Donald Trump, the next day, the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, went on a podcast to say that Jimmy Kimmel will have to pay, and that ABC will have to pay. It's either going to happen the easy way or it's going to happen the hard way. And immediately we saw Jimmy Kimmel get fired from his show. And you ask, okay, well, is that really that big of a deal? I mean, ABC is a private company. ABC should be able to do what it wants, right? It's a private company. It's privately owned. It should be able to do what it wants. Now, what's even deeper, what we find out is that Nexstar, which is the group that puts on the Jimmy Kimmel Tonight Show, they're in a $6.2 billion merger to form with another company. And that is being watched over, and that is all. Like, when mergers happen, the FCC are the ones that not essentially broker the deal, but they're the ones that allow the deal to go through. And so, in order to make sure that they stayed in line with the good favors of the FCC, they were like, you know what? Boom, we're gonna fire Jimmy Kimmel, and just so we can keep the $6.2 billion merger on the line, which that is a total violation of the First Amendment. And this is where the crux of this episode comes from. Donald Trump, for his entire presidency, especially for his entire non-presidency, right? The 4 year Joe Biden was president, he tried to champion, and he successfully championed, the First Amendment, saying that we have the right to speak, we have the right to vote, we have the right to speak our mind. And that was the whole new rebranding of the Republican Party that a lot of us fell in love with. Now, we kept on hearing, like, yes, voices need to be heard. Like, we saw people like Joe Rogan being attacked by CNN. We saw just people that spoke out against COVID, who spoke out against Dr. Fauci, were getting constantly, or even Joe Biden were getting constantly attacked by the left and calling them Nazis, right? And so we were like, okay, we need this breath of fresh air. And somehow we got so convinced that Donald Trump was going to be the breath of fresh air, because Joe Biden literally had no breaths left in his body. So we somehow totally forgot. We all forgot. We all had this mass hypnosis where we totally forgot the small ego and the large amount of pride that President Donald Trump has for himself. And he's now been a wrecking ball for free speech. Like, first, why would he even bother to care what Jimmy Kimmel says? He has no ratings. He has no talent. His latest Tonight Show clip has 10 million views, going back from like 4 million views. I mean, you've literally doubled his viewership. You've given him a platform just because your ego was so small and it got so hurt. Who cares? You're having dinners and you're having the meetings with some of the greatest leaders in the world. This should not bother you, right? Who cares if someone's gonna make a couple of jokes about you? You are 78 years old. Who cares? You have so much power in the world. Who cares? And so he's now been going after all of his political opponents, calling for the firing of, like, Steve Colbert already got fired. Jimmy Fallon already getting fired. And I don't like any of these guys, but we need all of these voices out there for this particular reason. Like, just like before, now Google, and now YouTube is reinstating YouTube channels and videos that used to talk crap about the left, because they are reversing their errors. So if that's just what's going to happen, where a new president, a new administration is going to come in and change the rules of free speech to cater for their own political ideology and their own political emotions ultimately, then we are going to keep this infighting, and we're going to cause even more fringement out there within the United States, and more political commentators that are going to be a lot more fringe. And so I am one who's extremely happy that Jimmy Kimmel is back. Even though I don't like him, I think all political commentators, comedians should have a platform in this country to say whatever they want, because it helps the individual form their own ideas on who they want to be voting for. But now it sounds like that in the Pentagon, they're even silencing journalists, and like having zero freedom of press is a dangerous issue in this country, 100%. Even going into the last episode about how Marco Rubio is pushing the legislation of those who talk poorly about Israel are going to get their U.S. passport taken away. The road isn't that clear, but it's to hear these stories, is talk about these stories, and be like, yes, we might not even fully agree with Jimmy Kimmel, but his firing made zero sense, and it was all just for a capitalistic political move for a merger to happen, which is completely against the First Amendment. And if you are a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're anyone, you should be standing up for the First Amendment fully, because it's just a joke at the end of the day. He was making a joke about Donald Trump. He said nothing about the Charlie Kirk assassination, which it shows you how Donald Trump has to make everything about himself. He can't even let this Charlie Kirk situation fully ride out and allow Charlie Kirk to, have his moment to truly just rest in peace. Right now he's going after people and firing them for his own, political advantage and political emotional nonsense. So I just want to come and report the news and tell you that just because someone aligns themselves with a political party doesn't mean they're going to uphold those values. And it seemed like there was this whole rebranding of the First Amendment by the Republican Party, and now they're the ones that are shutting down the other side and the other side of the political aisle, which is extremely dangerous, because guess what? When the left does come back into power, whenever it does, it's going to be even hard. They're going to be even more brutal to the First Amendment than the Republican Party and Donald Trump is. So, this is where we have to be incredibly careful with who we want to be as our leaders. We can't have these egotistical, crybabies, honestly, and that's what Donald Trump is. So, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are, and let me know what your thoughts are about the whole Jimmy Kimmel situation. Do you think he deserves to be back on air? And, how do you see the next 3 years of the Donald Trump administration going at this point?